Hey guys, welcome back to another impressions video. Today I want to talk about this game right here, Pokemon X. I just beat this recently. I don't know if that's gonna focus or not, but I got the digital version of the game using my Shin Megami Tensei 4 and Fire Emblem promotional code. So I got this game for cheap on day one, and I decided to go for the digital version because I think this is a type of game that greatly benefits from being in your 3DS system at all times. Similarly to Animal Crossing, I think this is a game that you can always jump in and play for a few minutes and save your progress and then go back to whatever you were doing. So very happy to have the digital version, and I decided to go for X because I just thought the legendary Pokemon in the cover looked cooler. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with this game, and it took me a while to beat the game. It's funny because a lot of the people that I'm subscribed to got the game on day one, and they beat the game within like a week or two, and they already had their impressions video within a week or two after the game got released. But it took me a few months, but better late than never. I think in completely beating the game, it took me 40 hours. Of course, that's just beating the 8 gym leaders. I did not catch them all, obviously, but I did have a lot of fun. And let me just give a brief overview or background with me in the series. I started with this game right here. This was my first Pokemon game, Pokemon Yellow, and it was the main reason why I got a Game Boy Color at the time. I was very interested. I just wanted to play this game because my friends had it, and I became addicted to this game. This was probably the first big addictive type of game that I owned. And my friends, they have different versions. They had red, they had blue, and we had the link cable. So it was very fun trading Pokemon, battling one another, and I completely beat this game, got all 150 Pokemon, and I liked this game so much that I went ahead and purchased this game, Blue, which is essentially the same game but just different Pokemons. And same deal. I beat the game, even though it's it's the same game. I beat this game, got it all 150 again, and that's how much I like this series. And the first generation still remains my favorite. And obviously, I was eagerly anticipating the release of this game, Pokemon Gold, for the Game Boy Color. And this is when my interest started to come down a little bit. I did beat the game, but I did not collect them all. So I was very close to collecting all 251, I believe. I was very close in doing that, but this is when my interest started to drop down a little bit. And so did my friends. They got silver, I got gold, but it was not the same thing. Granted, it was a very good game, but by the time, I think the next game was Sapphire, I got that game on day one, and I made it all the way to the second gym, I think, and then I gave up. I just lost complete interest in the series, and it wasn't until last year when I purchased Black and White 2. I purchased White 2 for the Nintendo DS, and I beat probably half of the gyms. I think I stopped at the 5th gym, and I had a pretty good time with Pokemon White. I had a pretty good time, but I just did not find the enough enjoyment for me to push forward and finish the game. But I do have to admit that after so many years of being on hiatus regarding the Pokemon series, it was nice to play Pokemon White. Brought me memories and the raw stuff in terms of the Pokemon games. So I decided to jump full steam ahead with Pokemon X on launch day because they updated the graphics engine of the game, and I have to say that the game looks great. Pokemon X has a new look. The environments are in 3D, but they still have a cel-shaded look that makes the game look cartoony and very anime-like, if you will. But in my opinion, the biggest improvement are in the battles, because the character models for the different pocket monsters are amazing, and it's really fun watching all the different attacks that you execute with the Pokemons. And I do have to say that the game does suffer from some odd frame rate issues, which is a very odd occurrence for a Nintendo first party game. So I'm not sure if they were on a hurry or they had to meet a deadline or some sort, but it's very weird to see frame rate issues with Nintendo first party games. Another weird thing is that the game is not fully on 3D. You can only watch the battles on 3D, which further, makes the frame rate even worse. In the main game itself, you can't use the 3D effect from the 3DS, which is pretty odd. But it worked out for me. I played the game for its gameplay, not for the 3D effect. Now the story is the same. You're a young boy or a girl. You get to pick your gender, and you're set to become the best there ever was. And you have to travel within a region and beat all 8 gym leaders before you can face the Elite Four. The game does have some other developments that involve Team Flare, which is the equivalent to the original Team Rocket, and it's just a gang of people that are trying to take over the world, and they have bad means. And I do have to say that the Team Flare story, it took a while to develop. Like, some of the interesting developments in the story happen after you beat, I believe, the 6th gym. So it takes a while for the story for the actual story of the game to kick off. So I thought it was a little bit weird, and that the game has you wait up until pretty much the very end. So I thought that was pretty weird. So the story, pretty simple, but you don't play these types of games for the story. You play them for the gameplay, and that's where the game still offers the same classic turn-based combat system, if you will, where you have to exploit the weaknesses of the different types. So it's a rock paper scissors system where if you have a water Pokemon, it's very effective against fire because water puts out fire, and so forth. There's a lot of combination, and this game adds a new type, which is the fairy Pokemon. So you do have to be somewhat well versed in the different types, but for the most part, it's very straightforward. And that's the beauty of it. I think the combat system still remains pretty simple, and it's very easy to learn and pick up for newcomers. Now, if you're a hardcore, competition type of Pokemon fan, the good news is that this game offers different layers of how deep you want to go in terms of gameplay. There are several mini games in which you can train individually each Pokemon on each stat. For example, speed, strength, agility, you name it. So if you want to go deep in this game, you can. If you want to go into the competitive route, you're going to have to spend a lot of hours playing those mini games and training your Pokemon in each individual skill or stat, which is it can get pretty crazy. And then on top of that, each Pokemon has different personalities. So I know the hardcore people out there, they try to catch a Pokemon over and over again until they get the right fit, the right personality for that Pokemon, and then they start training them individually. And it can get pretty crazy. So that's the beauty of it. You have the simple classic. If you want to you just beat the game, you can stay on a simple route. Or if you want to become a pro competitive player, the game offers a wider range of options. The soundtrack in this game was very good. I have to say that was one of the, in my opinion, one of the highest points in the game. Very good soundtrack, and the game controlled well for the most part. Except I had an issue where very early in the game you get the roller skates, which is good because you can travel faster throughout the environment. But it's very hard to control your character, and when you're trying to speak to somebody, it's really hard to stand in front of the person and push the A button to talk. So I found myself spinning around the NPC characters during the game, and it was kind of difficult actually to talk to them. Now, as far as length, it took me I think 40 hours to beat the game. I did try to catch as much as I could. So every time I saw a new Pokemon in the wild, I try to catch them. And the new designs, I'm not really sure who's new and who's not. The only set of Pokemon that I'm really familiar are the first generation. And even though I played Pokemon Gold to completion, I'm still having some problems remembering who belongs to the second generation. So to me, the Pokemons, my favorite ones are the original 150, which I know a lot of people think like me, but I did get to see some cool new designs, and I did get to see a lot of bad designs in my opinion. I think one of the new Pokemons, it's called Malamar. I think it's the one that you evolve by tilting the Pokemon. He was one of my main monsters in my party, and I took him all the way to the end of the game, and I really liked him because he was a dual psychic and dark Pokemon, so he was pretty useful in my party. So I thought he was a pretty good design, and he's one of the newer ones. But every time I saw a classic first generation Pokemon, I was like, oh, look at him, I remember him, and I would try to catch him. And I think Pidgey was also part of my party, which is the easiest Pokemon to catch in this game, and he's a first generation, and I evolved him all the way to like Pidgeot, and he was also a member of my main party, if you will. But yeah, in terms of where I would rank this game, I'm not really sure. It's a very good game, but every time a new Pokemon game gets announced, every time a new game gets announced in the series, I get hyped, I'm not gonna lie. And in my mind, I'm trying to find a game that's gonna match the same, addictive level, if you will, of the first generation games. And at this point, I think I'm starting to realize that I have to give up on that expectation. I think one of the main reasons why I hold the first generation games in such a high regard is nostalgia, and I don't think that you can't fight that. And no matter how good the newer games are, I don't think I'll ever reach that same level of appreciation and being addictive as I was with the first generation. So, but granted, this is a very good game. Online connectivity, that's one of the most positive points, if you will. It's very easy to trade Pokemons with people that are not on your friends list. It's very easy to battle with random people. So the game does a very good job of offering online features and connectivity. And not to mention that you have special events that Nintendo every now and then creates, and special events, competitive tournaments and whatnot. So there's tons and tons of replay value in the game. And that's another thing that I want to mention, that I think one of the reasons, and I think this is the main reason why the first generation game remains my favorite also, it's because that game, collecting them all, was perfectly attainable if you put the time and effort. Nowadays, I think there's over 700 Pokemon. So, in order to catch them all, I think it's basically impossible. You have to own so many games, and to me, that was the main appeal of the original one. That collecting aspect. Nowadays, I know that it'll be impossible for me unless I dedicate years of playing different games. I know that I'm not going to be able to catch them all. So the collecting aspect was a really big deal for me back in the day, and it still is now. But it's just, I know that it's somewhat of an impossible goal for me to attain at this moment. So that's one of the things that let me down a little bit. But there's nothing you can do about it. For every game they release new monsters, and it's just the way the series is progressing, I guess. So Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Pokemon X, a very good game. If you have a 3DS, I think it's one of the must-have games, especially if you're a newcomer. That's another thing that I forgot to mention. This game is extremely easy. So if you're a newcomer, don't worry about it. The game is extremely easy to the point that I wish there was a difficulty setting in the game, because for me it was extremely easy, not a challenge at all. Granted, I do have a couple games under my belt, so I was familiar with how the game, how the Pokemon games play, but overall an extremely easy game, but nonetheless a very enjoyable one. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.